Okay.
It's there. It's good.
All right, I'll start. Hello, everyone. My name is Consuelo Lara, and
I'm Madeline Cronenberg.
this is our June 5th episode of Between Two Teachers. So, and we're coming to you from the sacred land.
The sacred land of the Coqueño Carcan Ohlone people, the Chorcheño Carcan Ohlone people who've lived here for many, 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 many decades and ages prior to now.
Exactly. So we have a lot of things going on right now in our nation and in our district. So we're going to start with our national perspective here.
Right. And our national perspective has been shifted from the conversation that we were having around the coronavirus and the all of the dislocations that everyone's had from the pandemic to a real acknowledgement of where we are in this country with respect to racism and the tragedy around the circumstances of George Floyd's death at the hands of a very vicious police officer. And there is no other way to say that. So as we look at where we are today, our students, all of our communities are completely consumed with Mr. Floyd's death. And hopefully the protests that it started will make big changes in our society. And the first ones, the main ones, have to be really it's about changing your hearts and minds, but there are also some very practical things. There are some very, very practical things that can be done in terms of changing policing practices, not allowing the kinds of torture that he was employing, which shouldn't be done with anybody, and making sure that police officers do approach their job with more humanity than was shown by that Minneapolis, by the group of officers in Minneapolis. And we've talked about it. It's been talked about everywhere, including in school districts, right? So the West Contra Costa is not alone, and there's a conversation around policing has been an issue for a very long time, and school districts handle policing a lot of different ways. They may have their own police forces. Oakland has a police force. It's not unusual for a school district to hire its own police force to manage discipline within the school district. Yeah, and that is, people are rethinking that. They're rethinking the deployment of officers in school buildings. And that's going to be a conversation in addition as part of the bigger conversation around police practices. And that's true with West Contra Costa.
People are calling for defunding police. Right. And I don't know that people have thought that all the way through about what that means.
It's difficult. Yeah, defunding police. The one thing about defunding, you can eliminate the police by defunding them, but you don't eliminate the reason that people hire them to begin with, right? And they don't hire them to be brutal. They hire them for protection. They hire them to maintain order. So society has to rethink what they mean by maintaining order. And understand that I think, I'll just say this, in my opinion, you have to figure out what the replacement will be. That's the thing. This is where you do reform. You do make changes. But if you throw the whole baby out and just say, oh, we're going to not have it, or we're going to have something entirely different, you better just look at what the consequences of that decision might be.
And it leaves the door wide open for people who want to privatize policing to just walk right in. The same people who have our private prisons, that same group of people will come in where there's no regulation and there's no accountability. They don't have to,
And people will hire them because people will feel unprotected. People who would have never thought of doing that, right? If all of a sudden, anyway. Yeah. So
Yeah, we got to
We all
think.
have to figure all of this out, but and it's a matter of practice.
And one of the ways our Nancy Skinner, she has done something that was, like you said, it was unpopular, but really it gets to the point of what's happening
Right.
here. And that
Right.
was,
Right, and that was to make sure that an officer's discipline record went with him as he went from department to department, that wasn't somehow hidden and unavailable to the person who's going to hire him next. Just as that, it's also true with teachers. A teacher's discipline record, right? If a teacher has a discipline record of any kind, that record follows them and is available in the state, and as it would be with anybody in any business. And so it had been true that there had been limits on the transparency there, and Ms. Skinner put a bill through that eliminated those limits, and that's something that should be done nationwide. And the officers, strong police officers, want that, because that's what you want. If you have people who have discipline problems, you don't want them they're in the wrong business. They're in the wrong business.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for us here locally, big issue is about, of course, our SROs. And as we've lost money and gone into deficit, we've had to let go, because the district does pay for some police to be on campus at different schools. And slowly we've had to decrease those. And so it's very controversial right now. There's I've heard teachers say, I would not teach here if we didn't have an SROs. And on the other hand, I know there's the reentry programs that say there should be no police on campus because it contributes to the school to prison pipeline. All of these are issues, all valid that we need to listen to and find that place where we, make some changes. I would like to see more, remember affirmative action? I would like to see more women, more people of color as our, just like we're trying to get homegrown teachers. How about some homegrown police in our communities? That's what I want to see. At Helms, I remember there were students that said, oh, I want to be a policeman. And I would ask them, why? They said, because I want to protect my community.
Right, and protect, serve.
Yes, and a couple of them, when I got to Richmond High, they were in the Explorers, and by golly, they followed that career path. And so that's who you want in these. And so just throwing them out and, that's not the direction to go in. So in our law academies, there could be a law enforcement pathway.
Absolutely.
Getting you ready for the police academy, and you're going to be
exactly. And it's just the issues are that in terms of whatever there's the systemic issues that are there, the militarism, right? They've been militarized in the past few years, right? More than ever before. That's the kind of things that have to be looked at. But we also have to look at what the consequences are, how we're going to protect society as a whole, how we do maintain order, right? There was during the protests, there were people who took complete advantage of it. There was somebody who broke into a dealership in San Leandro, and a car dealership, and stole 70 cars.
I heard that. Oh my gosh.
Right. We have to have a way for that not to happen, right? Yeah. Because otherwise there will be private security everywhere. That's not good.
The relationship between the school and the police, I felt it as a teacher as something very important. After Sandy Hook, I remember police coming into our schools, talking to kids. That made us feel better. We're prepared. We know what's going to happen. And they had done their research, and they knew architecturally our school was very similar, which was kind of chilling. And we talked about all of those safety issues and things about many years ago doing gang presentations. They were there to keep us safe.
The DARE program. Remember the DARE program?
Yeah. So the role is very, very important. And I just don't hope that doesn't get mixed up with the fact that, the SRO money issue is kind of a separate a separate one. So it's very complex, and we all need to listen to these various
It's going to be quite the conversation over the next,
so
it's going to be for quite a while that we're going to be
for
having
quite a
this
while. And we have in the state some good leadership around this through Tony Thurmond.
Yes.
So what is he?
So Tony is leading, not from the policing perspective, but from the education perspective, and making sure that we have programs in place to address the trauma of racism and the understanding of what implicit bias is, and what it is to be culturally competent, to understand, for everybody to understand different perspectives, right? That's really, what is white silence, and how do you, what does that mean? What does all of this mean? And for some people, they've had training in this many times, but for others, it's brand new. And the other thing is, people are hearing things differently right now than they've heard it in the past. This is a moment in time where people are hearing it. So Tony Thurmond has brought in some money. He got $500,000 from the Bechtel Foundation to help him bring in training for his employees at the Department of Education, the California Department of Education office itself. And he brought in a trainer. He's looking to bring in more philanthropy and find other sources of money to bring in a trainer to do a gentleman who's a school psych, runs a training program out of New Jersey, but to bring in the kind of training that our children need, the kind of counseling and that everybody in our school community needs. So that training will be brought in by his organization, and he's another organization, an alliance, that will provide specific trauma training. Tony was a social worker, and he's using his social work lens, I think, in this moment. And it's exactly what we need. So I will put a link in our, actually I'll have it in the Trello board, so that if somebody wants to see it, or you can go to the CDE website, it'll point you to the Facebook page, and his half-hour presentation from yesterday is on there. You can see what he's talking about doing. And he's just beginning, but he really is taking action for California. So California is moving forward on this. And Tony Thurmond is in charge of more children than any other single person. California has the largest, is the largest state with the most diverse group of school children. And Tony is owning his responsibility here.
Absolutely. He has created, there's an email you can log on to and express your thoughts. And there's also going to be resources, a whole set of resources that you can also link to. I mean, he's just follow him and the website.
Exactly. I'm just waiting to have the California PTA become part of that, because that's the other thing. I think that the parents, this has got to be something that our families are really aware of, and that, there has to be a way to bring them up to speed on what conversations their children are having, so that they can have them as well. And I haven't really seen that. I mean, it's been a real short period of time. So for people to come together, the PTA is only just about to have, I think they're about to have their annual convention, which they're going to move to online. So everybody is trying to adapt to that. But there's movement.
Did you say that he also, they're going to do some internal training as well of the CDE? Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I think that's what we all need to do. I mean, like the district office, our school site. We need to look within.
It's been done. Been done before. It's the first time that it's been done, but it's heard differently as you keep going down the path, right? That's the whole thing. This is a moment in time after the 9 minutes that everyone has watched, where George Floyd died before our eyes. That has put things in a different perspective, I think. So to be retrained, it doesn't hurt to take the training again.
And in our schools, for our students, there really is not there's not a space there for students talk about racism or race. And not all teachers feel comfortable talking about it. And that's where ethnic studies comes in.
Absolutely.
So we passed that resolution. We do have ethnic studies, but now seeing the importance of that, ethnic studies, and to go out to, like have Black studies and have Asian studies, different groups can explore their history, and then be able to talk about the issues relevant to these communities is really important to have. So,
well, and the other thing that is practically important in terms of building communities, of trusting communities in classrooms, is restorative justice, restorative practices, right?
Yeah.
And making it as important as anything else you're doing in your classroom, to build that kind of community. And it requires teachers having a level of vulnerability that nobody ever asked them to have before. No. So it's right. That's not a little thing. So for folks who, but if we can get there to where our communities are able to do that, and our teachers, that becomes just a normal practice for our teachers, that's a very big change.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So we ready to?
Well, now we're ready. So the next big change is, what kind of changes are we going to have when we reopen schools?
The opening of school is now the big discussion. And of course, nothing's been settled yet. Are we going to, there's so many options. Are we going to go fully online? Are we going to go certain numbers of days? Are we going to have a year-round schedule? All of these are being looked at very seriously. I know that districts are talking with each other. We're talking to the county. And the issue is to be safe. To the health and safety of our students is number one. So trying to coordinate all of that for such a huge district as we have. So we are looking at all the options and all the possibilities.
And the state hasn't put their guidance out yet. They were going to put a guidance out, and as of this moment, it may come out today or tomorrow. Tony was saying yesterday, oh, it'll be in hours from now. Well, it's 24 hours and it's not out yet. But it's obviously going to be out soon. There are different proposals that Los Angeles County has put a proposal out, what they're thinking of. The different states, Georgia has a big program. The AXA, which is the organization for the administrators, has put out a program. And what they're all looking at are how students will be maintaining their distance, which means the physical plant is going to have to be different. If you're in the school building, it's not going to be the same. You're going to have to do all this, sanitizing. You're going to have to figure out. You're also going to have to figure out what to do. If you take their temp every day, if they're, what are you going to do if somebody's temp is up? What if the teacher's temp is up? How many other people do you have to have around? Who's going to be in charge of all of that? And then the scheduling. That's the big thing. Moving time around and having students go part-time to school, part-time online. And if you're doing that, this comes down to, once again, to equity. Who's able to do that and who's not able to do that, right? Yeah. Who has somebody at home and who doesn't have somebody at home to help them, right? So all of those issues.
It's not going to be one size fits all. It's going to be, we have to customize to our community the best possible arrangement that we can make. Absolutely. We want to be very careful and very deliberate about all of this in the opening of school. So, and it changes all the time. We'll try to keep you posted as much as possible. And let's see.
It'll be big news. I mean, just like we're all looking at where we are in these stages of coming out of shelter in place, right? It's the same thing. And as long as the coronavirus doesn't come back in another wave, maybe there is going to be a vaccine. They're talking about it. Maybe that's actually true, and we will have it. That would change everything as well.
Yeah.
We just don't know. And what it does, of course, is make it so that teachers, that's what it comes down to. It always comes down to who's ever at the bottom. Up at the top, we're all trying to figure it out. And at the bottom, teachers have to plan for multiple things.
That's right.
Right? A teacher who's leaving next week and is supposed to not come back to work doesn't know whether they're coming back to work completely online or back to where you were, or what is what's the mysterious thing in between that?
Exactly.
Right. So that's the thing. And we certainly in West Contra Costa, there will be an all online school, right? They are putting one together,
Yes.
which we hadn't had before.
That is for sure. That we do know for sure. That's going to
So
be
children will have that option. Families can't. We know they will have that option. We just don't know how much of an option they're going to have to go back to their classroom.
Yeah, because you have parents who said, "I'm not sending my kids." You have parents who said that, and the other parents are saying, "When are you going to open?" You know, you have this range.
Right.
You know, so who knows?
And you have parents who are successfully having their children at home.
Yeah.
Right. Who are saying, "This is working for my family.
I'm going to homeschool."
Right? Yeah. I'm going to homeschool.
So that's true. Yeah. Okay.
So there we are. We'll see where we are next week. Hopefully we'll know more.
Would you talk a little bit about the standardized testing issue for a little bit?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah. So one of the things about all this is that standardized testing has gone away, because the thing that's happened here is coronavirus took it out, because you can't do it online the way we've done it. But what that means is there are other strategies that actually even work online, and that's multiple measures. If you do portfolios where children put their work together in a portfolio and present that as the compilation of their efforts for the year in a topic. That doesn't mean you're not going to test them on whether they can do their multiplication tables or if they can spell, but it means you're not going to do these high stakes tests that take up weeks and weeks of effort and produce very little in the way of results.
Yeah.
You don't need to do it. They've been stopped this year anyhow. And there are many schools that simply don't do that. Private schools don't have to do the tests if they don't want to do the tests. And the Ivy Leagues, everybody is now, even in higher education, figuring out that if you did multiple measures, if you did a program where what you ultimately did was present a portfolio, share it with your teacher, present it to your parents and your teacher, how much more does that prove what you have learned? Rather than taking this one test and you get a piece of paper mailed from a computer and nobody even knows what it means.
Yeah.
And that determines where you go next, that piece of paper, instead of a body of work that you could explain and are proud of.
There you go. It
makes so much more sense.
Yeah. We're
and across the country, the opt-out, this is a moment where for years there's been the opt-out program, and in some places in Long Island, which is a very sophisticated group of very educated folks, they led opt-out. There are more families who opt out than opt in.
Yeah.
And you know who is the winners and the loser are the companies that make the tests. Well, they can do something else.
That's right. They could.
I'm not worried about them. They are the loser in this group. Oh, well, what about the test company? What about the test company? Right? It's just like, what about the college board? No, we don't really need the college.
That's okay. No, we don't need that.
So. They can find other things. They can diversify. They've had this for a long time, and it's what we found is its utilities is no longer here. We can do we can teach this way. You can teach this way online and still do multiple measures in portfolio production.
And for me, it's the how it discriminates and how it categorizes and how it's actually basically racist, and it labels kids and it puts them in the lower classes, or it remediates them, and it causes them to be used as retention. I mean, there's just all kinds of ways it's used.
It's completely abused. Whatever it was supposed to do, it's long past its success in whatever that was. So it's time to move on, to do things in a much deeper way.
Yeah.
Right?
More progressive. Yes.
Much more progressive. All right. So now it's time for shout outs. I want to give a shout out to everybody who worked so hard on the graduations this year, because I've gone to graduations for years and years and years. And this year it was completely different. They had to rise to a challenge, and they did. It wasn't the same, but sort of it was. All the parts were there. They were just sort of laid out differently. And it's possible now that in West Contra Costa, they will return to doing it back at the auditorium. They've done it at their home schools, which is what people have begged to do for years.
Yep.
So we'll see if that continues on, right? That's
Yeah.
such a gift here.
Well, it certainly would save money not to have to rent the.
All of those buses, well, and the buses that would take them there, they're thousands and thousands of dollars. That's why the signs that were all around town, you know, a Gaucho graduate or a Don graduate lives here, those signs were paid for by the buses that they didn't have to rent. They made out on. They had extra money in the graduation budget because those budgets were so filled with transportation costs.
There you go. That's right. That's right. So everything's going to change. I have a shout out also to Gonzalo Rocobo.
Absolutely.
He's one of our local heroes.
He's
isn't
a
he?
hero.
Food distribution. He's out there all the time. But not only that, during this time of looting, he has been on the street at night protecting our businesses. And he's doing Facebook, he's doing it online, he's sending us the word. People are protecting each other. Nothing's happened on 23rd Street. It is protected. And like he said, oh no, not here, you're not. So,
and he was right.
And he was right. He did it. I mean, just a great shout out to him. He's awesome. All right. So
so now we're down to comedy from Carlos.
Yes, you ready for the joke in this
I'm ready for the joke.
In this graduation era now, why did the teacher have to wear sunglasses?
Why did the teacher have to wear sunglasses?
Because her students were just so bright.
Oh, that is a good graduation. That's perfect. Okay, well, thank you all for watching. Remember to like and subscribe and share. We appreciate you all. We'll see you next week.
Next week. Bye-bye.